What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to TicketWithTippett. Today, we are going through our hidden gems in Dynasty Free Agency. Some of these guys didn't even move teams, but we're going to talk about them because nobody's talking about them. So, might as well bring them to light and make sure that you can go ahead and gain value or get the edge on your league mates. Because for the most part, everybody's got their eyes on the big prize. They got their eyes on the Tyreek Hills of the world, the Mike Evans of the world, the Kyler Murrays of the world, the Tuas of the world. But why not talk about some of these guys that stayed in similar situations and might end up benefiting from these guys leaving or moving on or getting traded or whatever happened. So we're kind of going to go through and break down these players and look through some efficiency metrics. And we'll kind of just go through and kind of balance out who we think could be hidden values in Dynasty Fantasy Football in 2026. And we'll start here with Luther Burton. Obviously, not so hidden. I just wanted to start with Luther Burton because I haven't really touched on him at all in any videos up to this point. So Luther Burton moves up drastically since the DJ Moore trade. DJ Moore gets traded to Buffalo. We can see his outcome, his DJ Moore's outcome, go up significantly as well because he has that elite quarterback in Josh Allen. But let's talk about a guy who hasn't really proven anything yet in Luther Burton, but he has elite efficiency metrics. So if we look at some of these metrics right here, the yards per route run is number 3 in the entire NFL, and that's only behind Puka Nacua and Jackson Smith and Jigba. So the big thing with yards per route run is that it's one of the elite metrics that we use to find out who could end up being a wide receiver one in fantasy football any given year. And in one of my TikTok videos, I did a breakdown of 3 guys from college who had a 3+ yards per route run coming out of college in the 2026 draft class. And that was Mekhi Lemon, Carnell Tate, and Skylar Bell. I mean, Burton has one of the best efficiency metrics graphs pretty much on any wide receiver that you're going to find in a profile. So Luther Burton's going to take a big step up. Obviously, he has the versatility. He's running pretty much 50% on both wide out routes and slot snaps. So I'd like to see how they use him now that DJ Moore is gone and DJ Moore is not going to be running, that 50-50 split as well. So will they use him more in a wide out right or slot snap guy? I mean, I think that he has the versatility to do both, kind of stay at that 50-50 clip if they can find somebody else that's, a little bit cheaper or later in the draft that they can throw outside that's a bigger body. Maybe that interests them in what they want to do. So at the end of the day, Luther Burton, obviously probably the hottest guy in Dynasty right now. Just wanted to touch on him to start out this video. But we're not going to leave the city of Chicago. We're going to stay right there with Colson Loveland. And the reason that I say this is obviously, like we talked about, DJ Moore is gone. He's in Buffalo. But there was a player who also left Chicago in that wide receiver room that had a ton to do with the reason that Colson Loveland was not producing at the beginning of the season. And that player is Olamide Zaccheaus. Olamide Zaccheaus signed with the Falcons again, so he's back in Atlanta. So that leaves a lot of these 0 to 9 yard routes wide open for Colson Loveland to take over. Because between DJ Moore and Olamide Zaccheaus, those routes that were behind the line of scrimmage or 0 to 9 yards, those were all taken up by them at the beginning of the season. Colson Loveland just finally started to take over because Ben Johnson started to utilize him more at the end of the season. And just speaking on that, let's look at Luther Burton and Colson Loveland's target share in weeks 13 through 18 compared to the guys like DJ Moore and Olamide Zaccheaus. So if you go and look from the beginning of the season, Olamide Zaccheaus, DJ Moore, they had a ton of target share. And right up there with Rome Odunze. Rome Odunze was obviously super, super hot to start the season last year. But Colson Loveland, Luther Burton, actually started to creep up and have higher target shares than the likes of DJ Moore and Olamide Zaccheaus near the end of the season. That's kind of when Chicago hit their hot streak. So I think that's why Chicago let Olamide Zaccheaus walk and traded a DJ Moore away because, okay, we can believe in these guys to provide for us in what we need in our passing game. So I have full trust in Ben Johnson to go out there and give Colson Loveland and Luther Burton everything that they need to succeed in Dynasty Fantasy Football, especially with them being so young and so raw of prospects. Man, it is just the sky's the limit for both of these guys. I mean, Colson Loveland could end up turning into a top 3 tight end next season, and Luther Burton could be a wide receiver 1 easily. And the next player that I can't figure out why people aren't talking about enough is Josh Downs. And I think obviously it's part of the reason is Alec Pierce just got one of the biggest free agency contracts by a wide receiver to be re-signed to a team ever. So, and a lot of that had to do with the salary cap being boosted up. So, I mean, with the big increase in team salary caps, obviously the receiver was going to get a bunch of that. So, Alec Pierce got a big contract, but nobody's talking about Josh Downs, and I cannot figure out why. I don't know how Downs doesn't end up being the biggest benefactor from a guy like Pittman being traded to Pittsburgh. I mean, to start, Alec Pierce, all of his targets come 10 plus yards down the field, and that's just not Josh Downs' game. Like, Downs is a short slot guy who is just going to eat within 10 yards. I mean, if we just look at his numbers here, his short route percentage target rate is 71.4%. So compared to his medium and deep route rate, that is significantly higher. So a guy like Pittman, who had about 50% short yardage target share and about 9% behind the line of scrimmage, you're going to see Josh Downs take over a lot of that workload. So, I mean, 60% of Michael Pittman's targets were in that area, and that's where Josh Downs thrives. So, how is Josh Downs not going to end up being, one of the biggest benefactors and just multiply on his short routage target share? So, I could see Josh Downs having a pretty big year. He's never had an A dot above a 10. So, A dot is average depth of target. So, Josh Downs has never had 1/10. So that means that every time he's getting thrown the ball, pretty much it's below 10 yards. So he is going to eat within that. I'm excited to see what Josh Downs does. I think we're finally going to get the full scope of what Josh Downs can do. And we'll see if they add a guy in the draft. Obviously, that's kind of the case with a lot of these guys, but these are guys who I'm just like super excited about. And I just don't feel like they're going to add people in the draft that are going to make a huge difference to their play style. And the next guy I really want to talk about is a Green Bay Packer wide receiver. And no, it is not Jaden Reed. It is Christian Watson. And the reason that I want to talk about Christian Watson is one, the guy who pretty much plays a similar type role to him, Romeo Doubs, is gone. And let's see what Matt LaFleur has planned for guys like Christian Watson and Jaden Reed, because I'm super excited. As long as Christian Watson can stay healthy, that's been the biggest bug throughout his career, is just the injury bug. And it has really decreased his role and his opportunity share. But if you look at his efficiency metrics, kind of the same thing as Luther Burton, it is insanely good. 2025, he was number 4 in yards per route run. So let's say that he plays a full season and he's able to really go out there and be the guy without Romeo Doubs there. Man, I mean, this could turn into a big year and a big elevation in Christian Watson's game in Green Bay. Now, when we talk about Romeo Doubs compared to Christian Watson, they had almost the exact same depth target share numbers for their own season. So I'd like to see how much of that changes with Christian Watson being the main guy in Green Bay on the outside, and where those targets come from now that Romeo Doubs isn't there. Maybe it does lean more towards a deep route, because that's when he came out of college. That's what people thought he was. They thought he was a slot vertical threat stretcher, and that's what he was pretty much for his first couple seasons. But now he's kind of expanded, and his targets come from all over the place. So I am just super excited to see Christian Watson go out there, and hopefully he has a healthy season to where we'll be able to tell if those efficiency numbers are true over the span of a long season. And next, I want to talk about Jaylen McMillan. And Jaylen McMillan is starting to get some heat here in Dynasty. He's still super young, kind of the same thing as Christian Watson, kind of has that injury bug to his name, especially throughout college. He had that. So I'd like to see him get a little bit healthier, play a full season. But I think this is the year, obviously, that he can take off. With Mike Evans leaving, this opens the door wide open for a guy like Jaylen McMillan, who can run his routes outside to just pretty much take the Mike Evans role, because Emeka Egbuka is going to take that role technically, but Jaylen McMillan really could step up and solidify himself as the wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2 on that team, because Chris Godwin can never stay healthy. Let's just be honest. The injuries are absurd for Chris Godwin every single year. He is bound to miss at least a couple games a season. So there's going to be games where McMillan is for sure the number 2 receiver on that team. And my last receiver here is Tank Dell. Tank Dell was wide receiver 19 in 2023. He helped give CJ Stroud some of his best years of his career. So I'd like to see what Tank Dell can do when he's fully healthy. Obviously had that massive knee injury there a couple years ago. So he missed all of last year, but he's going to come back fully healthy. I'm glad they didn't push him to try to get back late last season when they were in the playoffs. I'm glad that they just let him, kind of ride things out and completely heal, because I think that's the biggest thing for Tank Dell. I think he's 25 or 26 years old now. So Tank Dell, one of the biggest risers for me personally. I think that he showed enough when he had his rookie season with CJ Stroud to make me feel comfortable that he can have that type of season again. I mean, wide receiver 19 in fantasy points per game is no slouch. So He is definitely wide receiver 2 capable. And in this offense, there's no clear wide receiver 2. So who's to say that Tank Dell just doesn't pick right back up where he left off, in 2023 and 2024 with the Texans. So if you guys enjoyed that, make sure you subscribe, like, share, and comment below. Who is your hidden gem in Dynasty Fantasy Football after the first couple weeks of free agency here? Is there anybody that you have on your list of guys that I don't have? Go ahead and drop that below. Let me know. I'd like to hear what you guys think and if you guys have somebody that I just completely didn't even think of, because I did some pretty good research on opportunity, target share, efficiencies. So I just wanted to touch on some guys who weren't really being touched on and weren't really being talked about. And I think that these guys deserve to be talked about because I don't think that there's that many people in the draft that can end up taking roles over top of these guys who are going to come back or going to get more opportunity to shine in fantasy football. And for the most part, all these guys are really young. I mean, these guys are all, I think, 26 years old and younger. So, I mean, these guys have plenty of years ahead of them, and they have multiple years of one, proven success, proven efficiency, or a big opportunity gain to have good years. So, I'm super excited for these guys. Let me know down below again what you have or who you have for these hidden gems in Dynasty going into the 2026 season. But other than that, thank you guys for stopping by. Peace, hope, and love, and we'll see you in the next one.